On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, The Athletic. We love The Athletic. They came out with their article on the way too early predictions for next season. Everything from the Stanley Cup champion to which coach could get fired first. Lots of good info on there. Let's break it all down. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you again. So we got a lot going on this episode. We have Chris MacFarland's GM grade. We're going to get to that here a little bit later. We have our subtext people chiming in on that. We have another two questions that we wanted to get to that were sent in. And we have that athletic article that we talked about that we will get to momentarily. But like we always do, follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions. LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And make sure you're following us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And subscribe to that subtext. Link to that's in the show notes below. And when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. All right, sir. I love when the Athletic does stuff like this. And it's all in it. I mean, it's part like fun because it is way too early, and they even title it way too early predictions. But some of it is like, okay, let's see what holds up, and you revisit this when the season comes to an end, and those predictions that you put out that are good, you look like a genius, and the ones that you put out that don't even get a sniff, you look like you look.
It's
like
way too early.
Don't blame me. It's way
Yeah.
too early. I put it in the title. So you kind of cover your bases here, right? So it is some interesting stuff that they have in here. And this is all their like, they give percentages, and it is kind of based on their writers, right? So, yeah, I guess we'll just jump right into these. Why not? So I'll just go down. I'm not going to do it in any order than what they're presented on their site, on the article. So they start right off the bat with Stanley Cup champions. And it happens all the time. Don't you always feel like the team that loses the cup final is some reason, some way the favorite for next year?
I mean, they got determination in their blood. Why not?
I feel like, and I've fallen victim to that a few times myself, feeling that way. And it's no different here. Edmonton gets 47% of the vote. Dallas gets 22. The Rangers a little over 9. The Avalanche come in fourth at 6.3%, tied with Nashville, 6.3%. So we are already putting Nashville in that realm, that top 5 team that could win it all.
Which is interesting. I'm glad the Athletic went that high. I know NHL.com, they put out their Super 16, and they have the Avalanche ranked at 6. Which makes me feel a little bit better that all these smart, intelligent, brilliant writers at Athletic put us at 4. But to see the Nashville, the moves already rocket them to 4 is interesting, especially with all those moves. And Edmonton really didn't do much in the way of moves, and they're still sitting at the favorite.
I wouldn't. They made some pretty good moves here. Like, should they be the favorite? Too early to tell, but I think Edmonton did okay. I do. I think they did okay to be up here. That's total. Do I think it should be that wide of a gap? It's like 25%. Yeah, about that. Yeah. Do I think it should be that? No. I think it should be a little bit closer, but they're definitely up there.
I don't think Florida's going anywhere either. So
Florida is not on here.
Yeah, I know.
They're not on this list, miraculously. Pretty crazy. They have a runner-up. So who's going to lose the Stanley Cup final? Are you looking at this or no?
No, I'm not.
Do you know who number 1 is?
To lose
Did you
the
look
Stanley
at it
Cup,
at all?
Go ahead.
It better not be Colorado,
because we don't do that.
No, but I mean, if they're picking Edmonton to win it all, they are picking an Eastern Conference team.
Are they picking the Rangers?
They're picking the New Jersey Devils.
Oh, that's probably why I blocked it. I don't have those filters. You can't have.
They have the Devils going to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, technically, that is their prediction for their early prediction is Devils versus Oilers. Go ahead.
I am very high on the moves they made. I just want to see how it works. But that's, I mean, even as a closet Devils fan, that's still a very lofty projection for what this team can do.
The top 4 teams on here are Eastern Conference team. The Devils are at 31%. The Rangers are at 25%. So they take up most of the percentage, those 2 teams. Tampa Bay and Toronto are both at 9.4.
Tampa Bay.
Vegas at 6.3 where you get a Western Conference team.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Tampa Bay is 3rd. Yeah. I know. That one's a little weird. But hey. The Avalanche are not on here. Are not on the runner-up list.
They don't lose the Stanley Cup.
They don't, so you can't put them on the surprise playoff team. Really running away with this one. So this is for teams that are plus 6,000 or worse in odds. So it's only those teams. Number 1, 53%, Utah.
Are you a writer for The Athletic?
I mean, you're limited to what you can pick here because it is, your odds are plus 6,000 or worse. So that's what you have. That's you're starting off just with those teams. I would go with Utah. Utah is 53. The Capitals are over 18. Kraken at 12.5.
See, I would completely flip that. I think Seattle might. I mean, they're not a bad team. I don't believe
not a good team. Like
I don't believe in Utah that much.
I do. I think Utah's going to have a very improved season. Seattle just scratching your head moves that they made this offseason that I don't think made them any better. So I wouldn't even put Seattle on here at all. That's me. I think they're going to really, they have dark horse contenders. This is a middle of the pack team. So the odds are plus 2,000 to plus 6,000 of this making a run. This is not necessarily winning it, just making a run. Tampa Bay, the top, 37.5. Vancouver right behind them at 34.5. Winnipeg at 12.5.
I love Vancouver.
Vancouver, are people thinking they're just like a one-trick pony? Just like one good season? And yeah, they'll be good next year, but not what they were this year. Maybe they surprise some people and they won't have that surprise factor going into next year.
Yeah, I think the Edmonton run took away from what Vancouver did when it comes to teams from Canada having a really good year. And how quickly we forgot the year that Vancouver had. But my word, that was a good team.
They had a really good season. Right. Biggest disappointment, projected favorite that you could see missing the playoffs or a first round exit. Tied for number 1, 28%, the Carolina Hurricanes and the Vegas Golden Knights. Second is Toronto, which is so easy to say with Toronto. I'm surprised Toronto's not number 1 at that, but I don't think a lot of people have a lot of faith in what Carolina can do in the playoffs. They just seem to not be able to put it together in the playoffs. And Vegas, I think some people are souring on Vegas for losing too much in this offseason. So, which I'm not crying over. I'm fine with that.
I think, honestly, Vegas and Carolina, I think both windows are closing, and you see everybody jumping ship with both of those teams that I never believed in Carolina. Never. And Vegas,
I think you haven't.
And they're one and done. I think that's over too. And money's starting to catch up with them in a big way. In Carolina, I never have believed in them. And this is the beginning of the end for that run.
Yeah. As far as President's Trophy winners, they have Edmonton 37.5, Dallas at 22, Colorado in third at 9.5. So a small percentage, but they do still feel like Colorado could be up near the very top of the league when it comes to points.
I still like Dallas over Edmonton.
Really?
Yeah.
Same thing with Dallas. Dallas, don't get me wrong, Dallas is a very good team, but did they get better? I don't know. Losing Tanev hurts, and they didn't really replace him that well. But you kept Duchesne. He's another year older. Pavelski, I don't think he's officially retired yet, but who knows if he's coming back. He's another year older. If he does, Dallas is still in the mix. But what I think last year was a great opportunity for them that they let slip through.
Yeah, and you get another year of Robo really hitting his stride.
Yeah,
so
those guys are obviously, and that's the other part of it. I'm talking about the old guys. They have a crop of young guys that are ready to take the next step too. So yeah, it's true. Fewest points, San Jose 65.5. Overwhelmingly the favorite there to have the fewest points again, despite Macklin Celebrini. The Ducks next at 22%, Montreal, Columbus, and then Ottawa. We don't need to go there. First coach fired, 31%, Derek Lalonde in Detroit. Mike Sullivan, number 2 at 22%. The longest tenured coach in the league is second on this list. I think he could get fired. I can't imagine they would fire him mid-season. And I can't even imagine he would get fired. I think it's just one of those things where he plays out the whole season. If it doesn't go the way that it goes, you have a conversation and you amicably agree to split.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a guy that's gone that long gets the walking papers without a conversation and without it making it look good for him.
Unless it's a disastrous start out of the gate and it's just a force, your hand is forced to change things.
Luke Richardson of the Blackhawks is on here at 9.5%. He's another one. Like, why are you going to fire him? You got to build something up, and I think you need consistency there. Greg Cronin is 4th here, tied with John Tortorella. This is what drives me crazy about the coaching carousel in the league. Why is Greg Cronin even on here at all? Anaheim is terrible. They're rebuilding. He's a great coach. He's perfect for the job. Again, it's kind of similar to the Blackhawks. We were just talking about the Blackhawks. You got to let these guys grow. Like, you let the players grow. Why can the coaches not? So I don't agree with that at all.
I think it's probably just easier names because everybody else has, honestly, their bench boss, and they're pretty solid behind that. If you're going to have a top 5, you got to go somewhere. And I guess that would make sense on their performance, but there's a lot of coaches you won't move.
No, I mean, Cronin's new. Richardson pretty much new. Lalonde, I don't even think Lalonde should get fired. Like, how many coaches are we going to go through in Detroit before we put the blame somewhere else than on the coach, if you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Come on now. So there's a lot of young coaches on here. John Hines just got hired by Minnesota. He's already on here. Patrick Waugh is on here. Peter Laviolette is on here, who just won the President's Trophy in his first year. What I love, though, tied for last, it literally says, whatever coach the Blue Jackets hire.
Nice. You know,
that is wonderful.
Waugh is on there, and that's funny because he hasn't even he hasn't had a lot of time there, but one press conference away just has Tortorella.
Yeah,
you don't even have to really get started. And
exactly,
you're out the door.
There's Calder winners, Vezina winners, which we're not going to get involved in that. But the Norris is on here. It goes the way that you think it should go. I will tell you the percentages right after we get our first break in. So let's do that now. And we come back. We'll finish this. There's good, which you're going to get in the Norris. And then there's bad. Again, shafted again in maybe the worst way ever. We'll get to that next. All right, let's hear from Gametime. It's an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. What do we love about Gametime? They have the priority last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off when you buy last-minute tickets for sporting events, concerts, comedy, and theater. Flash deals, zone deals, all in pricing. Turn on that feature, and the price you see is the price you pay. No surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Gametime and download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply. So again, create the account and use the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today at last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, so let's get back to this Athletic article and their way too early predictions. We left off with the Norris. They do have Cale Makar winning the Norris. The funny thing about it, though, is it's an absolute runaway. It's basically 69% of the vote goes to Cale Makar. Everybody, you have Gustav Forsling, Miro Heiskanen, and Roman Josi all at 6.3%. And then Adam Fox, Brock Faber, Evan Bouchard, and Quinn Hughes at 3.1%. So the guy who just won it, they have at their lowest percentage. And you read the comments, I'm not going to get into them, but they all say, like, they use, in quotes, like, a down year for Cale Makar. We expect him to bounce back in a big way and run away with this thing.
I mean, it's honestly, makes sense. If you're going to have Edmonton as your favorite because they lost the Stanley Cup, you should have Cale Makar your favorite.
Now, on the flip side of that, they do the Jack Adams. And the winner they have of the Jack Adams, you'll be happy to know, is Sheldon Keefe at 28%. Second on here, they have Craig Berube. So Sheldon Keefe leaves Toronto, goes to New Jersey, and he's the favorite to win this. And then who goes to Toronto is Craig Berube, and he's the second on here at 12.5%. I'm just going to read these names, Kyle. Sheldon Keefe, Craig Berube, Travis Green, Andrew Burnett, Dan Belisma, Chris Knobloch, Paul Maurice, Andre Turnigge, Drew Bannister, John Cooper, Luke Richardson, Peter DeBoer, Peter Laviolette, Rod Brindamore, Spencer Carberry. I did not say Jared Bednar, if you didn't notice that. He's not on here. We talk all the time of how Jared Bednar continues just to get shafted left and right when it comes to the Jack Adams, either not being able to win it or years that he's not even nominated. And you're going to tell me these, however many names I just listed there, 12, 13 names, and he's not on there? Give me a break. This is ridiculous. This is lunacy.
You're telling me I'm going to have a New Jersey Devils coach win the Jack Adams before Bednar does?
And why do we go that route? Why do we always? That's another thing we do is a new coach in a new city. We automatically think he's just, going to step in, turn. I mean, it happens. I'm not saying it can't happen, but that's this award in a nutshell. That's what we reward. We are rewarding guys that go to a brand new team and turn it around. Not even like put them at the top of the standings. Just they're putzing along, and then they get a new coach, and now they have a little bit more stability. We give him the Jack Adams.
It has nothing to do with Markstrom being your goalie now.
Well, I mean, sure it does, but this one just really, really irked me. And again, I am not saying he should be at the top of this list, but year in and year out, Jared Bednar is one of the top coaches in this league. Whether you want to say top 5 or top 6 or even top 10, but to not have him on here at all makes me want to cancel my subscription.
I told you his window for winning this award is over.
It's over. It's over. But is it so far over we're not even putting him in these lists anymore?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
No,
come on, the Athletic. There's got to. I'm calling for a retraction here. And putting him somewhere in this list. Absolutely sacrilegious. However, in the Jim Gregory Award, which goes to the top GM, Chris MacFarland is on there. They do have Barry Trotz at number 1, 50%. Chris MacFarland is tied with Chris Drury, actually, of the New York Rangers at 3.1%. And Chris Patrick. Wow. The 3 Chris's are all at 3.1%. So he's on there, which is good to see. The Hart Trophy, they have overwhelmingly going back to Connor McDavid. So it's like the Norris, it was a down year for Cale Makar. He's going to bounce back and win the Norris. Connor McDavid, a little bit of a down year for him. He's going to bounce back and win the Hart. So he's at 87.5%. Nathan McKinnon at 6.3%. So, hang on.
So you're just telling me with this list, all the losers from last year win?
Yeah. Yeah, there's really no repeats on. Yeah, no, I don't see any repeats.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. That's where we are. It's too easy to predict a repeat, right? You don't want to pick two guys in a row. So I understand that part of it, and it's a little bit more fun to try to pick a new guy. So
Losers are
it is what it
winners.
is.
That's your message going into next year.
Exactly. So, well, I should save that, bookmark it, and then revisit it at the end of the year. And I think they do that in some capacity, but man, the Jared Bednar thing, I'm going to lose sleep over that. I don't like that. We mentioned Chris MacFarland being on the list, and we got a question about who do we think is one of the bigger UFAs that the Avalanche have signed in their history. And the funny thing about it is, like, you go through and look at the history of like UFAs that the Avalanche bring in, not a lot of big, like, they do trades. Trades have worked wonders for the Avalanche over their history. Unrestricted free agents, not so much. They don't go after those big guys. There's been times where they've tried to, and it doesn't work out one way or another. But and I'm not talking about a guy that was on the Avalanche that became an unrestricted free agent and they kept. Someone that was on another team became a UFA and they brought in. Who do you think? Who could that be?
Oh, I have a number one,
Mm-hmm.
and I have an honorable mention, and then a third if I have to throw one in there.
An honorable mention. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, throw them out.
Okay, my honorable, Matt
Mhm.
Calvert.
Great one. Yep, he's on my list. Yep.
The honorable mention,
Okay.
and it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be controversial.
Okay.
Valeri Nichushkin.
No, that's legit, man. Like, yeah. I mean, it's kind of going in a different road, different trajectory right now. But yeah, that's
Number one.
Yeah.
And nobody will ever put this on their list. This was instrumental for me and a lot of my hockey fandom. P.A. Parentau.
You liked him.
I adored his play.
I mean, he didn't. Yeah, he got in the Patrick Waugh doghouse a couple times, but
and those times and those weren't incredible Avalanche teams, but talk about never quit. Like, and that was a big signing, and he didn't get to play. I think it was his first or second year because of the lockout.
Mm-hmm.
And just what he brought to the team, he was just consistent. He was so good, and there was never really anything bad to say about his play. I loved his play.
He had some big goals. I remember there's some big overtime goals that he had. I didn't love him, didn't hate him. But as their best signing, I don't know if I'd go that far. If for those three, I'd probably,
because like Matt Calvert is for heart.
Yep.
Nichushkin, jury's still out on if this is a win or a loss in the grand scheme of things. And honestly, the list isn't that deep for UFA.
It's not. And I think, Nichushkin was probably running away with that award, if you want to say it's an award, but we'll have to wait and see long term and how this whole thing shakes out. If he can hold that title that we're just completely making up right now.
Were you going to throw out a list? Did you have names?
I had Calvert, Nichushkin, and my number one was Jerome McGinley.
See, and that was one I was about to address, because I know everybody is like clacking away at their keyboard. Hold on. Yes, it was a big name, and he got his milestone in an Avalanche sweater, but that was not the Jerome McGinley we all fell in love with.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
That was. Go ahead.
That was the end of Jerome McGinley. Like, that was the final just glimpses of his career. So it's not the same. It's one thing to say you had the player in an Avalanche jersey, yes, but it wasn't the same caliber player that he always was. That's why I really didn't even put him in the list, because yes, on name alone, huge signing, right, but it just wasn't the same caliber player that made him the big name.
No, and but he still did well with the Avs. Let me bring up his stats. He had the first year with them was 14-15, played all 82 games, 59 points. The second year played all 82 games, had 47 points, but was a -22 in that year. That was And then the following year is when he got traded, but he did play 61 games. He only that was when it really started to struggle a little bit. Only 18 points, a minus 21 after 61 games. So and I remember they traded him to the King because the Avs were going nowhere. It was one of those things where like, well, we'll trade you somewhere, maybe you have one last shot at it. And I thought it was a little bit because the Kings were a fringe playoff team. They were a playoff team, but not like they didn't have it in their grasp. So I thought it was a little bit weird that that's where he went to try to make a run at the Cup because I didn't think that was going to happen there. But the couple years he was here, it wasn't a long time, 2.5 seasons. You're right, name recognition, one of the big ones that they've got. But I thought that was the last year he played with the Kings. So you're not getting the early Jerome McGinley, and they knew that. But for what he brought, I was happy with it.
Yeah. I want PA Parenteau to get his.
I mean, he's definitely above PA Parenteau in terms of UFAs, but
on name maybe, but like PA, he kept playing.
I gotta look up. I got to see what PA Parenteau's stats were with the Avalanche. I can't imagine they were.
He continued after the Avs. I believe he went to Toronto and
he went to Montreal. Wow, he played after the Avalanche. He played 4 seasons with 4 different teams: Montreal, Toronto, the Devils, and then was traded and only played 8 games with Nashville. But in Colorado, hey man. 12-13, 48 games played, 43 points. In 13-14, 55 games played and 33 points. So a pretty big dip from one, but almost a point per player in his first year with him at 48 games.
And he was a motor. He was one of those we always talk about, like, does it show up on the stat sheet? Look it up in the dictionary. That's PA.
Yeah. I think you're going more for like he's just one of those guys that you just attach to.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get it.
That's why I didn't put Paul Kariya and Teemu Selanne up there.
You could have done that too. And the things just did not go. If the seasons went the way that we were hoping they would go at that time, they would be up there too.
Or John Clem. Like John Clem, he had great years.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Was kind of like in the shadows of a lot of those teams that he was on. But
that's the thing, man. The Avs bring in so many guys that you feel like this is as far as UFAs go, where you're like, we'll catch what they've brought to other teams and we'll get it. For whatever reason, for UFAs, doesn't seem to happen. Will happen in trades, and other means, but no, for some reason, it's just they don't have a rich history of UFAs coming here and
Belmar
succeeding. Yeah, but it was fan favorite, sure, but crazy, weird. Yeah, and with all those UFAs, those got to be done by a general manager, don't they? Yeah. So we have Chris MacFarland as our last and final grade. So let's bring that up right now, sir, if you're watching over on YouTube. There you go. B's across the board, except for yours truly. I gave him an A-. YouTube 55% B, Twitter X 47% B, Instagram 58% B, and Threads 63% B, and my trusty co-host here also a flat B. To which I ask why.
There's a warning on this B. It has the potential of dropping. I get, explain to me why we had so many optimistic episodes leading into last year about all of these crazy moves. Do you remember the day that we got Ryan Johansson? I remember sitting on the couch doing a triple check. How did this happen? How is this possible? Give the Avalanche just the Stanley Cup, give them greatest team of all time. And it just kept coming. Ross Colton, Miles Wood. Oh my God. And then it just didn't work. And they had to trade. And then there's this devotion to the Val Nichushkin scenario and situation. And then we're still waiting on this Gabe Landeskog thing. Like, I understand MacFarland. Well, but we're in a cap crunch in a super, like, it's in a rough spot, and we're talking about trying to sign Mikko. Like, yes, I understand he learned under Joe Sakic and all this. I understand, but this has to be a show me year for moves and have them pay off. Because I'm not there yet. Like, I feel like we lump this confidence in MacFarland too much, and a lot of that is Sakic.
Well, I mean, what Sakic did, MacFarland was there, right? I mean, we want to give Joe Sakic all of the credit for it when he deserves most of it. Well, Chris MacFarland deserves some credit as well for what went on during the Cup run. But I could not disagree with you more than everything that you just said, because you talked about getting Ryan Johansson and how excited you were about that, and Ross Colton and Miles Wood, and then Tomas Tatar, and specifically Tatar and Ryan Johansson didn't work out, and then he traded him out. So he's doing his job, right? So when he signs Ryan Johansson and you're excited about that, and it doesn't work out, why is that Chris MacFarland's fault? And if he did nothing, so I mean, if we're happy that is the thing with the GM, when a GM makes a move and he trades someone or he drafts someone or he signs someone, what is your initial reaction? If your initial reaction is like, that's a good move, then you give the credit to the GM. If it turns out where it didn't work out, that is not the GM's fault, in my opinion, because we were all happy about the Ryan Johansson move. All of us, nobody, save for Vargar. I got to give Vargar credit. He had a little bit of trepidation there, but 99% of us were like, 2C problem is solved. We were all saying it. And because it didn't work out, now we want to have hindsight and all be experts on hindsight and say, like, oh, now that didn't work out. But what did he go? If it didn't work out, he didn't sit still. He's traded him. He got rid of him. Same thing with Tomas Tatar. While I thought Tatar was starting to play a little bit better, I don't think he was going to, just break the wall like the Kool-Aid man, but it wasn't working. So he got rid of him. That is the part where Chris MacFarland, for me, gets an A, because he addresses needs. If those needs don't work out, he addresses them again. And everybody wants to sit here and say, like, and all the moves he made at the trade deadline, we were all apologizing to him for everything, that all the moves that he, or maybe working slowly, not trading fast enough. He's methodical in how he does things. I love how he does things, and he goes out and he makes the right moves and he addresses the needs of this team. And if they don't work, he addresses that too.
Well, to all that, to your disagreement, I'm going to flip it back. I'm just at a flat B. I'm not giving him an F or a D or a C. Like, I understand he's done everything that you're supposed to do, and the Avs went one step further than they did last year, the year before, in the playoffs. They made it to round 2. So it's like, this is all positive, but we're starting to see a little bit of a conceptual philosophy disconnect between Sakic era and MacFarland era, where it was, don't pick up the phone because if it's Joe Sakic on the other side, because he's going to fleece you. MacFarland, he can do similar moves, and he has a good eye for things, but I just need that one more. I just need just a little bit more. I love MacFarland. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's terrible, fire him, all that. I'm just saying it's
you want that move that just lands like perfectly, and not go through the process of the Ryan Johansson debacle.
Yeah.
I get that. But at the same time, like, that's part of the job of, sometimes you hit home runs, sometimes you strike out. But when you strike out, you can't just say, like, well, I tried. Let's see what happens in the offseason. No, he addressed it. And he went out and got Casey Middlestat and wasn't afraid to give up a great young defenseman in Bo Byram to go do that. He knows he's got to give up something to get something. And the move he made to get rid of Ryan Johansson, while I know you gave up a first-round pick and you bring in Sean Walker, who did not sign with you in the offseason, so it was more of a rental, which the Avalanche really don't do. that move itself, I thought was a stroke of genius. Really is, because you get rid of, that's how you had to get rid of Ryan Johansson. Then that's what you got to do.
Yeah,
Now I'm saying, like, you can always go back and turn around and say, like, oh, look, looking back on the season, you lost him, so that's Chris MacFarland's fault. I don't put it on him, man. Like, he goes out and makes the moves. Players got to play. Players got to step up and play. And when they don't, why don't we put more on them instead of if Chris MacFarland did nothing and just sat around and just was the last guy to make moves and only made like minor moves here and there, it'd be like, dude, like, come on, you have a window here. You have some amazing players on the team. Let's get them some help. He's doing the total opposite. He's getting them the help that they need.
Well, when we were giving out everybody else's player grades, I didn't fault anybody for not giving them the puck more or giving them opportunities, or if he played 2 more minutes. Like, I'm ranking MacFarland on him managing the Generals, and he is this season seeing how his draft picks work out, how this youth, if he can cultivate it, make it work, and plug it into the lineup, and what he can do this season to make it through the 2 big contracts we always talk about. Mm-hmm. This is the season that could put MacFarland lockstep every year, every grade with Jared Bednar with A+, and this is why. MacFarland still, he's got a little bit to prove, and this is his year to really find his voice, find his style, and really go with it, because he's had some little bumps. I'm not saying like terrible things, but this is his way to prove, hey, I am also part of this genius that is Colorado Avalanche front office, and he could show it this year with everything coming to fruition.
I would just say, this offseason obviously is not over. Let's see what other moves he has up his sleeve, because they're in a little bit of a cap crisis right now. Let's see how he addresses that. Yep. And so far, like how he addressed the trade deadline, I have all the confidence in the world that he will address it the best way possible. And as far as like draft picks go, last year was his first draft. So far, we're kind of liking what he's done in the draft and the picks he's made in the draft.
Oh yeah.
Joe Sakic had bumps in the road. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Joe Sakic. Remember Carl Soderberg second time around? That didn't work out so well.
Oh,
so
awesome.
it doesn't always go the way you want. That's the life of a GM. And when things go right, you're the greatest thing in the world. And then when things go wrong, people want to fire you. I am in no way, shape, or form there with Chris MacFarland. I think he is early. He did a lot with Columbus, but for the early goings with the Avalanche, I really like the stuff that he does.
I really do. And don't get me wrong, I do too. But I had to I'm giving him a grade. I'm giving him a grade, not a parade. He hasn't earned the parade yet. True. Just the grade.
There, yeah. I mean, that is an interesting way to put it. I'll say that. So, but I do. I look forward to what he comes up with next, and how he finishes off this offseason with this cap issue that the Avs have. We'll see what he can do. I got faith. All right, everybody. A little bit of a show note here. We're on a vacation next week, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get content. We recorded 3 crossovers with Central Division foes. We got the Predators, the Wild, and the Blackhawks. So those will be coming out next week, and then the week after that, we return like nothing ever happened, and away we go. 1 week closer to the start of a new season. So, but we'll still be in touch with everybody through social media and subtext and all that fun stuff. So we won't go away for there. But as far as the show goes, crossover week. This what did you call it? Central AC crossover week.
Central all crossovers. Central
all AC. Love it. So that's going to be next week. So for now, for this week, thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys later.